Once again, a formal welcome to today's roundtable to all the panelists. Good afternoon. Uh, Today's topic, as you know, is why you must reimagine your cloud strategy now. This is being organized in partnership with VMware and Sify. My sincere thanks to you all for taking time off to join the discussion. I am Shamanuja Das, Editorial Director of B2B Publications at 9.9 Group, and your moderator for this session. One small housekeeping announcement before we move to the agenda. I'll request you to keep your videos switched on if possible, and mute yourself if you are in a noisy environment, except when you are talking. The topic is something I think you all can very well identify with. The pandemic has changed our lives and businesses forever. It has become a cliche saying all this. It made organizations realize the value that IT and digitization, and in particular cloud, can bring in. But it also created huge expectations from technology, and not all of which may be realistic in the long run, but we'll get into that. We cannot go back to the pre-pandemic period, which in less than 2 years seemed like a very, very distant past. At the same time, we cannot continue to have the knee-jerk tactical reaction that we were forced to have in the beginning of the pandemic. We need a fresh strategic approach for the long term, and that is what we are going to discuss today with cloud at the center. To discuss, we have amongst us a distinguished panel. Let me read out the names before we get into the discussion. I'm reading out all the names that I have. Some of them have joined, some of them have probably not joined yet. Mr. Anuj Joshi, BP IT Evolution, I have not seen him. Mr. Devojit Mitra, CISO, Aditya Birla Fashion and Retail, I have not seen him yet either. Mr. Muralitharan S.
I'm sorry, my camera is not working. But good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah, hi.
This is Anuj.
Good afternoon.
Oh, Anuj. Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, great. So, Mr. Jose KG, CTO and CIO, Manapuram Finance. Mr. Kamaya Nadawala, Head of Security Assurance, Application and Network Security, Flipkart Internet. Mr. Kiran Nadkar, Group Head, Infrastructure, Tata Power. Mr. Sandeep Banerjee, CISO, Bandhan Bank, he is very much here. Mr. Muralitharan S, SVP, IT, Serum Value Services, he is very much here. Mr. Sarvananan S, DGM, IT, Karur Vaishya Bank, he is also here. Mr. Subramaniam V, CISO, IDBI Bank, he is here. Mr. Venkatesh Natarajan, President and IT and CDO, Ashok Leyland, he is very much here. And Mr. Yatish Shivprasad, Director, Society General, Global Solution Center, he is also here. Welcome you all. Thanks once again. And from our partners, VMware and Sify, we have with us Mr. Anitosh Haldar, Business and GTM Head, Cloud, DC and Managed Services, Sify Technologies.
Hi, everyone.
Mr. Jitendra Durairajan, Head, Cloud Engineering and Solutions, Sify Technologies. And Ms. Sonia Aluwalia, Director, Cloud Sales, VMware India.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you. So I'll take no more time. I think we are ready for the discussion. But before that, let me request Mr. Jitendra Durairajan, Head, Cloud Engineering and Solutions, Sify Technology, to set the context with a short presentation. He is a technology advisor and transformation leader responsible for executing technology roadmaps to meet the business challenges in the client company with business strategy, roadmap, and goals. So over to you, Jitendra. Jitendra, are you speaking? You're still muted.
Yes, you able to hear me now?
Yeah.
Good evening, all the leadership team. Thanks, and I'm privileged to announce the leadership that Sify has come up with a multi-cloud platform. It's a true hybrid and multi-cloud platform with our competency and so on. So I hope this evening will pride for me to announce our new product launch. And you know, our Sify Cloud is precisely powered by VMware. I also have this 12 years of VMware journey partnership, what we're doing today. We also not believe our, what do you call, like the pandemic was taken out the 2 years of time face-to-face connect, and we end up doing a lot of digital sessions and those things. I hope the cloud adoption became mandate or preferred to run the IT show. And this is a Gartner prediction where we can see that 81% will be like a hybrid in nature, and 50% of that workload out of 81% will be precisely the large player of the public cloud workload. And we know all the hyperscale cloud today, it's also have a hosted platform for the VMware as a stack. And we have a reference customer who we delivering those services out of VMware, and then the cloud native applications as well. With that, when I cannot able to name who is the hyperscale provider, but most of the hyperscale provider today he's hosted with the Sify data center, and we are the cloud connect provider where we can able to leverage for any business critical application. Those are non-cloud adaptive workload. We've been working with bank, we've been working with healthcare, with manufacturer, and different vertical. We'll see that many platforms of their core applications are developed in Solaris and AX kind of a platform, right? And that is mandate for them to continue to be on the on-prem type. And the other cloud native, the analytical platform, or the data-driven platforms, and a couple of the applications, which is a cloud native mandate, can able to host it on these hyperscale cloud. Or it can be a cloud native. We see many of the enterprise applications today tested and proven in VMware platform, right? Like VMC in AWS, the various landscapes of the VMware stack, we can able to subscribe and run your service over there. And we can able to provide such hybrid in nature kind of a workload with less than 1 millisecond latency. That's what we commit. The network standpoint, because we are ISP and we are a data center provider, sharing the real estate space with these hyperscale providers as well, right? So we came across the complete API-driven integrations with one common orchestration tool, and we treat today the Sify cloud, which is powered by VMware, both multi-tenant and private cloud. Also a provider like AWS or VMware on AWS or Azure, Oracle or GCP, right? We can able to orchestrate any cloud. The interface remains same. You don't need to be master on every cloud, how it's going to look like. And it is tightly integrated with our ITSM tool. All your request, change, incident monitoring, whatever you call about, right? And it is completely AML driven for you to do a lot of automations on SAP driven, those fronts. And you will have a visibility of dashboards, your cost spend, your resource usage, your resizing of resource, recommendation on resource platforms. All those things you will get it part of the dashboard. And we can accommodate the various user types. It can be a CXO user, or it can be any user I could call, any business users. An app and DevOps user who want to do an API-based integration with our orchestration as well as ITSM. The APIs are available for them as well to integrate, and obviously cloud administrator. It is a bidirectional integration between the cloud and our engine, so that either you provision a resource on these clouds, it automatically gets synced back, or we can provision from the Sify cloud platform, it also gets synced to the hyperscale cloud. So this is something, a generation 5, we have released this Q4, and we are onboarding customers, and I try to announce that in this evening session with all of you. So with that, today we use multi-tenant and other cloud. It's one single umbrella where you can able to handle Sify cloud, public cloud of any hyperscale cloud, or VMware stacks of public cloud as well. And the private cloud, it can be anywhere. Today we completely on a VMware stack on the private cloud what we're delivering, both hyper-converged as well as the any enterprise rack or blade server model. And we are also coming out with the next year, we might be coming out with the remote edge pod. It is like AWS Outpost or Azure Stack kind of stuff. So you can able to deploy your own cloud at closest to the demand, like the healthcare demands the scanner should be, the server should be closer to the scanner. The manufacturing required the microprocess, you need to be closest to that, like that. We can able to deploy. We are the one cloud provider who we are supporting today with a multicast for their trading applications, those front as well. So just a glimpse of screenshots, how it looks like. You see the dashboards for all the hyperscale cloud stacks. And this is a common screen, whether it is AWS, Azure, or Google, or Sify Cloud, or any of the VMware Stack Cloud. The interface remains same. You don't need to master in any of this cloud, and it will be easy for operation and brings a lot of automations as well. So with that, I'm using last slide. This is like Cloud Enable and Cloud Inspire. We've been running this show for quite some time. This is the infrastructure asset-led services, right? We've been doing a discovery, assessment, those fronts. And the Cloud Pure is something which we have announced, the multi-cloud platform. It gives all the capability what I talked about in the earlier slide. And we do a cloud enhancement, continuous lifecycle management of any workload running on the cloud. You continuously need to bring these automations and the intelligence on the solutions when you use a SaaS platform and those things. Thanks once again for the time giving us to announce our CMP platform part of this leadership session.
Oh, well, thanks. That was a very crisp presentation, Jatinda. Thanks a lot. So I think we should move directly into the discussion. And well, I think we should start from a slightly broad perspective and then go to specific issues. So let me start with Mr. Muralidharan S, SVP IT Sriram Value Services. As we settle down for the post-pandemic new normal, in your business, what are the new business challenges and opportunities, and how do those translate to technology requirements?
Yeah, good evening all. See, I'm Muralidharan, SVP of Sriram Value Services, which is primarily the IT arm of the major Sriram group, who are mainly into the non-banking finance and insurance, mainly catering to the vehicle finance, consumer finance, general insurance, and life insurance. Actually, when we Sriram Group, if you take, though it is a 50-year-old company, these are more conservative in nature, and we provide the entire technology support in terms of running their business. Their total asset under management comes about under 1 lakh crore rupees, which is being managed by the solution which we provided. So typically we have in-house built ERP, which is running the entire show of all these businesses. Actually, when the pandemic happened, we were not sure what needs to be done, etc., because nobody has the never worked on work from home, right? It is total change. Suddenly, we used to have BCPs, but one day we never had the BCP for the development and the support. In a sense, probably a few of us, we have some BCP markup, where few of us will go and do something saying that suddenly the entire thing stopped. So nobody is able to come. So which made us to think, and the way in which we transformed ourselves into the new normal, right, was very what I would say fantastic. Because within very few days, we were able to manage the entire show, and nothing has stopped as far as the business operations are concerned. So we had actually our own data center hosted at our place earlier. Then today we have a data center at Tata also. And which made us to think that somehow we need to have this, we need to move cloud to cloud, all the applications, mainly because of the application availability, right? Because the entire operations are running through the entire ERP. So fortunately, we had a mobile applications for all the businesses. So during the pandemic, the mobile usage went abnormal high. In fact, if you look at the collections of the installments of customers, has suddenly gone from 40 crores to 400 crores during that period. So which made us to think, right, the scalability, right? We had initial problems in terms of scaling up to our mobile application and managing this sort of traffic. So, which made us to think to move to cloud. So we are partnered with AWS, and we are primarily a Microsoft shop. So we had Azure and AWS. So we moved our applications, and for which we have to slightly fine tune, because the applications are more of legacy application which was used earlier. So we have to make it cloud ready first. So we made the application cloud ready, moved to the cloud. So which helped us really to manage the entire show. And probably then we suddenly formed a group and to find out what exactly we can do. Then how do we make our entire application cloud ready? Because the rewriting the legacy application or ERP fully will take some time. So we decided to adopt the cloud ready, and then we decided to use microservice architecture. And how do you develop the application to make it cloud ready? So this is what today, if you look at it, the entire thing is we plan to move it to cloud, and the cloud adoption is I would say continuing. We are seeing that how we are improving that. And earlier, when we had our own data center, we had to, because we have the physical servers or the fixed kind of resources or infrastructure for the entire duration of the month. Today, when we move to AWS and Azure, we are having the scaling up or downscale option. So whenever there is a huge volume of transactions during the month end, the infrastructure scales up, and whenever we don't want that, we are scaling down. So these are all some of the advantages.
Right. Thank you. See, this is, I think this stories would sound familiar to many. So let me go to Mr. Venkatesh Natarajan and ask him a very straightforward question about cloud. See, it is your cloud journey didn't start yesterday, right? It started long. So I would just like to ask you a question. So if you can see, since we have quite a few panelists, if you can do that in 2 to 2.5 minutes, it will be great. So you can just talk about how was your cloud journey in a nutshell, pre-pandemic, and now that you are looking at the future. So what has drastically changed? So maybe Mr. Natarajan.
Yeah, quickly, we started our cloud journey way back in 2014-15, when the world really started talking of, digital and the SMAC technologies and so on. So we were quite quick in kind of latching on to those new trends. And the initial first kind of loads were some of our digital commerce platforms, which we hosted on the cloud. And our connected vehicle platform also got hosted on the cloud for us. That is a big data platform. And today that's a huge kind of a platform for us, where every day we capture more than 2 terabytes of data getting into the cloud today. So what started off as a kind of a small journey, today we have reached a stage where a large part of our workloads are on the cloud today, right? I mean, some 700,000 plus, cores of compute is what is there on the cloud. Every day, as I said, 2 terabytes gets added to our storage there, and we do a lot of compute on the cloud. So cloud today has become and we also have migrated from an IaaS to a PaaS kind of a platform. So the advantage we get on the cloud is the flexibility, the scalability, the nimble-footedness which you get. And even if you take a kind of a cloud service provider like AWS or so, they were talking of about 160 kind of services about 2 years ago. Today, if you look at Reimagine, they have announced so many new products, a lot of products on these low code and no code and all that, which kind of, today they are leveraging all these new kind of products. In fact, some of the products which we have now started using are not available on the AWS India. It's all available on the AWS Detroit and so on, but we have started using it. So it's providing the organization. I really can't think of an on-prem kind of a big data platform today. I mean, I can't even imagine that today. So that's so moving forward. What's happening is, if you ask me, this is going to, like you say, mobile first. It's going to be a cloud first kind of a strategy. Everything you want to put on the cloud, even your your core ERP applications will move to the cloud. Whenever you're going in for a refresh, and especially large organizations like this, whenever we get an opportunity for a refresh, yes, we will look at cloud. So moving forward, how do you see the cloud? So the cloud today probably has become the de facto kind of a platform. Gone are those days 6-7 years ago when we were talking of security, data security as one primary concern using the cloud. So that was more of a mindset issue, which has also changed. So we were more comfortable as humans. Whenever my wife used to buy some jewels, the first thing she used to do is, she goes and then deposits that in the bank deposit locker, because she finds it is safer to be keeping it outside the four walls of your house. But when it comes to data, you wanted to have it within the four walls of your house. So that's a kind of a mindset change, which has happened. I think so. Cloud moving forward will be the de facto computing model. And I've been talking to some of these hardware manufacturers, OEMs, like the server manufacturers and all that, saying that going forward, you will not be talking to CIOs or CDOs. You will be only talking to the hyperscalers and the data center cloud service providers and data center guys. So today, if you look at cloud, is just not for us. Today, the cloud is for our ecosystem. We have given access to for our electric vehicles and all that to our charge providers, to the guys who provide batteries for us. All these people, telematic service providers. There are so many partners to whom we have provided appropriate access to the cloud. So this is slowly morphing into an open data ecosystem, or open digital ecosystem, right? Moving forward, and all that orchestration and that transformation is all happening on the cloud, and that's the way I look at the future. So I will have no data centers. I don't wish to have any data centers. We should not be talking of compute and so on. We should be more worried about how we have our data lined up and kept in a combat ready mode, whether you keep it in a data fabric or whatever it is. Data should be in a combat ready mode, and you orchestrate all that on the cloud so that you're able to build applications at a breakneck speed, for the business. That's the way I look at cloud, and cloud is the innovation platform moving forward.
Oh, thanks for a very positive and energetic, setting the context. And so let's go to something which is a reality and which is something probably a lot discussed, multi-cloud. And let me start by asking this to Mr. Yatish Shiv-Prasad, Director, Society General Global Solution Center. See, today that's a reality, multi-cloud. But there are challenges, not just making them work, making a multi-cloud hybrid environment work, but to ensure that it is managed well, and you get what you set out to get from the cloud. So what are some of the challenges there and how you are mitigating them? So Mr. Yatish Shiv-Prasad.
Hello, good afternoon. Thanks for the question. It's a very interesting one because, that's the kind of question that we are all faced with on a daily basis when we formulate our IT strategy and how we want to adopt cloud for our applications. See, I come from a banking environment, and Society General is one of the key banks in the Eurozone, number 2 there. So in coming from the banking environment, what is key for us is what is the kind of IT investments that we have done in terms of our applications, in what level of maturity they are, correct? And which are the legacy ones, which are the new age ones, and how do we have to formulate a strategy when we have to move to cloud? And what are the options that we have when we have to move to the cloud? And that's where, the concept of hybrid cloud and the way we will do our applications deployment or our IT deployments becomes imperative. Couple of challenges that we see. First of all, what we have to look at is how is data managed? What is the lineage of data? What is the criticality of the data? What is the confidentiality of the data? And how do we host the data? Because that becomes very important, because as a bank, we have many regulations that we are always faced with. GDPR is the primary one, that we see day in and day out. Of course, there are newer set of regulations coming in. Just to give you an example, European Union is coming up with something called a Cyber Resiliency Act, which came in 2019. So we have the implications of the act, which means how do we host the data? How do we manage the data? If it is to be transformed and transitioned outside the European Union, what are the implications for the data and the leakage for the data? because it also poses us with a lot of threat, right, in terms of data leakage, ransomware, how some data could be stolen and can be sold on dark web. It could be any one of the threats that we face. So we need to be very, very clear on the way we manage our data, and that's where it becomes when we go for a hybrid type of implementation, those challenges are there. The second challenge that I would want to articulate is how much of legacy applications we have, right? That will decide whether we should go for an on-prem kind of a deployment or a cloud, whether it is single cloud, multi-cloud, etc. Third is how do we space out our budgets? Because if you really see, we are a bank which has got a lot of lineage and history. And then there are newer fintechs, there are startups, there are banks which don't have a physical appearance, but they are completely virtual, online, etc. So we are dealing with, competition, and the competition is very, very real when we are dealing with customer experiences. So we need to see, what brings the best customer experience. And the challenge for us is where do we put our money on and how do we manage our budgets? So that becomes our third challenge. The fourth challenge, which we see in the markets, where predominantly we are developing and deploying IT, is on the talent availability. If you really see, we are still growing. We are, I would say, still in a bit of a nascent stage, where a common availability of cloud skills is still not there. Okay, that poses a challenge, because even if you're ready, even if your budgets are there, your strategy is in place, how to do deployment and how to do an efficient deployment, how do we have those experts to do those efficient deployment, is the fourth challenge that I would put forth.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for very clearly and succinctly put it. And let me ask the same question to Mr. Anuj Joshi. So that, of course, he is from a banking company. Now you have clients in multiple verticals. Mr. Anuj Joshi, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah. So, so how does the same challenge, maybe from your business point of view, multi-cloud, so multi-cloud is probably not an option today. You have to somehow get into it, forced into it, but you still have to achieve what you set out to achieve without getting, caught up with the complexity. So what are your, challenges, and how are you, meeting them?
Okay, let me take a step back. When this incident happened, COVID, the biggest challenge that at least we saw, and in my fraternity, most of the CIOs saw, when we were planning for business continuity, we used to plan, we have got site A, site B, site A becomes the DR of site B, site B becomes the DR of site A, and so on and so forth. Now, when Gurgaon got impacted, Mumbai also got impacted, Bangalore also got impacted, China also was impacted, Romania was impacted, UK, US. So we were actually, we realized that we are running short of choices actually. Right? Where would you go? The entire global planet Earth is impacted, right? So where would you go? There's no country who is not impacted. So the only option left out was to shift over to cloud engagement, because at least that piece was something which, whichever way you look into it, was a workable solution. That's number one. Number two, those who were reluctant to shift to cloud actually were left out with no other option but to accept that. And point number three is, the cloud providers themselves ensured that whatever you needed at on-premise, we are able to deliver it to you. Now with this, with this platform, complexities also started pouring in. Multi-cloud was one of them. Which one is the best? Which one is the most fit for which one? Right? You have SAP, you have Active Directory, you have messaging environment, you have typical workflow environment. Which one is the best fit for your environment? Then, since audit, and compliances also took a backseat, they started revamping themselves and made, changes to their norms. Gone are the days where audit used to happen physically. Now it's happening virtually. Now, when you are doing it virtually, your norms would also change. For example, China has got their own rules. European countries have got their own rules. South America have got their own rules. My fellow counterparts spoke about this. So these also started pouring in, right? So, and then one of the challenges that came in was that if one of my cloud service provider or a region is impacted, then where would I go? Because then I'm again short of choices, right? So create a redundancy on cloud, and that's where multi-cloud started coming in. The biggest challenge, what we saw and what I saw, was on the training and the education front. More than anything else, half-cooked knowledge, cloud is a beautiful environment until unless you know every in and out of it and the limitation of it, right? If you believe that, with a half knowledge that whatever we have done is the best, without realizing what you have done, and without realizing that this is not fit in for this, then there is a problem. And that's the biggest challenge, that when I speak to my counterparts, they also, echo the same, same logic about it. So it's all about knowledge transfer, and education. But yes, cloud engagement is what is the future is all about.
Okay, thank you. See, we started. I think we had, Mr. Anuj talk about complexity, and of course there was the discussion cost, talent availability, this regulatory. There are multiple of the challenges, but the fact that multi-cloud is a reality, as all of us realize. So let me turn to Sonia here. One of the challenges, the basic premise based on which people move to cloud and then to multi-cloud, is that they want to make it simple, they want to de-risk, they want to minimize on cost. But when from a single cloud to it becomes multi-cloud, all these things become very different. The complexity increases, the risk goes up, and even cost sometimes goes out of control. In a way, what you set out to achieve through cloud gets completely negated. How can that be avoided?
What I heard, thank you for this the opportunity, but what I heard from Mr. Yati, Mr. Anuj, and Venkatesh sir, and also Murli sir, this was all music to my ears, because the problem what they're mentioning, right, is exactly what VMware wants to tackle, working along with their partners like Sify, and where we can get, that is a true multi-cloud vision of VMware. What is happening today now? People, when they move, as you mentioned, that the cloud came in, or I would use the word mono-cloud. Mono-cloud came in to bring down the cost, the complexity, and the risk. And the moment, as Mr. Venkatesh said, the need for the native services is so high, and each hyperscaler every day is running neck to neck. Today, what you have on AWS, tomorrow Google will come up with something. Day after tomorrow, Azure will come up with something. And how do you choose? Where do you go? And if you decide to go into more than one, if your business has need for more than one, what do you end up doing? You end up doing silos. And for what you got the cloud, you are actually negating that by going into multi-cloud. So what does VMware understands this problem? And what does VMware do? But before I go into what VMware does, I'll just reiterate one point. The major investment today, what any organization does, is done in terms of their manageability, their talent, their operation, their maintenance, correct? Which is on top of their infra. So today as VMware, we understand that this is a one-time cost which is already incurred. You already have people trained. So if you have a virtualization layer, which is VMware, what we do is we extend it across all the hyperscalers, plus the cloud providers like Sify and the other cloud providers. So we give you a single pane, same virtual environment. So what happens is your people who are trained on VMware, your talent, Mr. Yatish, you mentioned the challenge of talent. Nothing changes at all. Your everything above remains the same. The cost remains the same. And what Mr. Venkatesh mentioned, that I want to use the native services. So you move from on-prem onto a VMware environment in AWS seamlessly without touching your so-called monolith and legacy app. and you get all the native services for what you had moved. So you get best of both worlds. Today, what you're getting on-prem, you already have your investments in cost, right? And you want to go to hyperscaler to get all the other benefits. So what does VMware, along with our partners, do? We bring together a solution on all the hyperscalers, which brings the best of both worlds. And the beauty is, it's not just a one-way traffic. You just don't move from on-prem to either a VMware environment in AWS or in Google or in Microsoft. You can move back. Tomorrow, when your need is fine and you have a very stable environment and no more need for the native services, you've developed and matured, on-prem is the cheapest. Nobody can beat on-prem. So you can even come back to on-prem. So that is what VMware wants to bring in today. Best of both worlds and giving you the seamless mobility across hyperscalers with your investment unchanged. No change in your initial investment.
So that's just, since we're talking of a little bit of the lighter vein, since we're talking of multi-cloud, in my view, a multi-cloud hybrid cloud environment is like a multi-cuisine restaurant, which offers you, you have a North Indian buffet, you have a Chinese buffet, right? And a lot of items which are kept, which is all equivalent to the number of products and services which you get on all these, cloud environments, right? But the problem is the cuisine, the restaurant charges you only when you eat the food. But in these cloud service providers, they will charge you not only for eating the food, but even if you open the lid and then smell it also, you will be charged for it. So you'll have to be careful. That's the difference.
I just want to add,
so the cloud cost needs 24/7 continuous monitoring for you to continuously optimize. And you will never reach a point where you will reach a point of very optimized cost. You will have to constantly keep, and that's a journey by itself.
See, Anitos, sorry, Sonia wants to say something. After that, Anitos, I had a separate question for you, but I'll get you here for a moment. But let Sonia finish first.
I want to mention, Venkatesh sir, is this product which I'm offering VMware on whatever hyperscaler, this is all as pay as you use model, similar to exactly what the hyperscalers are. So there is nothing like what you, and I understand the famous term called bill shock, right? Which normally the CIOs face. So this comes with a manageability plane where we have a cross manageability and across, the resource adjustment, where you can adjust your resources accordingly and see to it that you're within your budget. So there are a lot of tools which come along with not just the movement capability what I'm giving today. So I totally understand from where you're coming from, and I think we've considered those in all the plethora of tools what we offer today along with the services.
No, that's what I was saying was in general. That's so.
Yeah.
I think you made a very right observation. Sorry, Mr. Das, I just wanted to point on this point. I think this 24/7 monitoring is very, very important. So rather than talking cost optimization, in fact, in one of my seminar on TCIO, I didn't spoke about cost optimization. I spoken about cost control. That is where the beauty of service providers like us, Sify, has grown. The multi-cloud platform that you show when Jitu was presenting, it is built on the entire VMware stack. So one is that what VMware gives us the power of. Another way is that how we are doing the cost while sniffing, understanding, and giving you a more resilience and transparent understanding of your usage by instance, how we are doing the cost control. And that is where the, as a service provider, we have understood and we have built it in our managed services. Today, we don't charge it separately. It is part of our managed services. This platform comes and give you a cost control because this is a necessity. It is no more a value add. It is a necessity. I don't call it as a value add or a luxury. So that is a very important point you made, and this is how we are trying to solve it. Yeah, over to you, Mr. Das.
Yeah, thank you. Just if you, just in half a minute, if you can say one thing I wanted, I think he also mentioned about talent. Okay. I think Yatish mentioned about it, right? Talent, and sometimes there is a trade-off with the cost, with the time that you have. So maybe if you want to comment on that quickly before I go to the other panelists.
See, I'll just take 2 steps back. I was hearing everybody, and I will take it on bullet point of view. What pandemic has done, it is 4 things that they have created. The moment we understand business continuity, which is the most complex thing and which we could solve with the cloud, the next thing came is work from anywhere. Then we started working on that and we solved that also. Then third thing came into mind that if we can take care of the most complex thing of BCP and also the work from home, why don't we look at modernization, because it will help our digital journey go faster, right? And that's where the skill set issue started coming, because the first 2,
it was still can be handled. The skill set issue of modernizing or transformation or moving to the digital world while taking up your cloud journey, that's where the skill set issue is coming, because cloud today is no more an IS. It is a model. First, it's a framework where the governance regulations as per the industry, the leaders are talking about. Second is a framework which will apt for the business outcome that you're looking for and the digital use cases that you're gunning for as an organization. So the enterprise architecture or the framework that we built on cloud is very important first. If we create that framework properly and then stack our services, we can go towards operational efficiency or customer efficiency, whichever we can choose as first. Accordingly, you can know that what is the skill set we are trying to solve. Majorly as an organization, we have also seen that problem when we were going through this pandemic journey, and all of a sudden there was a lot of, I will say, opportunity or request in something new that we need to build. DevOps journey and Kubernetes journey, which we were thinking 5 years down the line, the microservices already hit us. Cloud native services are always there, correct? So you cannot get skill sets on that immediate ready-made. So what we have to do is that, and that is the beauty of today, creating an IP of a cloud platform, right? The moment we can create the framework properly, and accordingly we create the model that which workload will move in IS, which will move on a PaaS, what can move on SaaS, our skill set pressure will go down, because we know what kind of necessary resources is required to maintain an IS, how much we need for PaaS and how much it is critical, how much it is for SaaS, and so on and so forth. So once the framework gives that idea, then you can use your skill set mapping. Also, then you cannot go out of the skill set problem. So what we then do is that as an organization, that what we started doing is that what Sonia also mentioned, there is a concept we also have in Sify called train the trainer, correct? So it is just not creating a trainer, it's just not creating a framework. How every time I'm developing and creating the SOP along with it is very important, because a person who will take over or a resource who will take over from there, he will go by the SOP and he will then build his skill sets accordingly. So it is about train the trainer, because nothing is called certification and nothing is available to meet to the customer need today or the organization's need today. So train the trainer, the beauty of framework, and bringing the multi-cloud platform point of view where you can bring automation and productivity so that your skill sets dependency start going down and your automation goes up is how you, this mix of these three, how you can take care of the skill sets. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Let me turn to see. Well, we are on multi-cloud because that seems to have hit a chord with people, and there is a lot of discussion. Let me go to Mr. Kiran Nadkar and ask the simple question. So we had, Sonia responded to the difficulty of the from a broader level, well, complexity, cost, and all. But as an infrastructure manager, as you, the manageability of multi-cloud, there also I think she must be smiling. They help solutions. But I just wanted to understand, what do you see are the challenges and how that impact other things, cost, and of course, clearly security and any of the other challenges that because of this manageability of multi-cloud environment, hybrid multi-cloud.
So before we start with the multi-cloud or those parts, so I think so from a cloud perspective, I think the major impact after a pandemic is which drives the cloud journey of a lot of organizations is operation anywhere and access anywhere. I think last 2 years we realized the importance of I should work, I should be able to work from anywhere in this world. So I, some of my friends will give an example that everything was shut down, but at the same time, everything was working also. And I believe that it is only possible through, some kind of hybrid infrastructure, what we are experiencing now. The organization who are late in their journey for a cloud, and when I say a cloud, I don't mean only a server infrastructure or an application infrastructure on cloud. I think we have to see the operation infrastructure also. The platform which we are connecting today, or the Teams. So take a Tata Power example. My adoption of Microsoft Teams, where we are predominantly on Teams, is increased 10x in last 2 months of post pandemics. So one part of that. So when we say that, if somebody is not saying that I will not go to the cloud, I think he needs to think his re-strategy again about the cloud part of it. Now, part of cloud, when we say enterprise cloud from the hybrid or a private versus public, I think there are two predominant things which comes in everybody's mind is that if I do a multi-cloud, how the integration will work between these two, how I manage the workforce. So Sonia gave us an example of VMware that there is a solution available that I can manage through a one single solution. I can manage multi-cloud, but at the same time, what I also agree with my friend that you should know what is there in cloud, how to manage it. The knowledge is very, very important. Cost is the one part of it. I will come to that point. But I think the knowledge is very, very important. If you know only a half thing about a cloud, and if you want to deploy something like on-prem, I think the cloud strategy will fail. And so many times I saw that cloud strategies are failing because people try to replicate on-premise on cloud. If you try to replicate it, your strategy will definitely fail. Mr. Venkatesh gave us a nice example that he said we definitely choose a PaaS over IaaS because he identified the use case accordingly. He never tried that I will replicate my on-premise on cloud and I will work as well. Believe me, the cost will get increased. If you try to replicate, your cost will go haywire because you really don't know how to manage the workload or how to control the workload. Optimization, I'm not talking about it. How to controlling the workloads to use, and then I'll pay as I go. It's a very, very important factor we should consider before we move on cloud. So one is, of course, we have IaaS, we have PaaS, we have BPaaS, and now SaaS and BPaaS. I think BPaaS is a solution which we see everywhere. So it's the platforms. Netflix, take example of Netflix or a bank. The entire banking is moved on a platform. I did not worry about, where is my money is today. Bank is giving me that flexibility because of the BPaaS. Same thing on an enterprise. If I go with a multi-cloud, I need a solution which will allow me to freely manage my workloads on a different cloud, freely allow me to shut down or shut off the workloads and move them effectively. And the cost part, I think cost is a business, but it's all about a business case. How do you manage your cost and how that leveraging or how you are benefiting those business cases will definitely give you a cost advantage. And if that cost advantage you can able to give a right picture to your business, I don't see a cost is a matter really matter to towards a cloud journey. I think the operation anywhere, the remote support, and the flexibility of using the cloud and the experience. I think these are the four pillars of any cloud journey. I wish that people will think of it. And most important, so now we are in the utility business. So I'll take a last point and then I can stop. So in a utility, we comes under national critical infrastructure. So NCPIC have a critical guidelines for us that I should identify my data, where the data resides. Government of India is also coming with now data policies. In that particular time, if Government of India is coming with those kind of policies for a data identification, that will be the challenge for a cloud journey. And I think from 2 years here, we would definitely wish to see that what if I am making a cloud strategy, a 100% cloud strategy, after the policies will come, what will happen around that. So I think from a utility perspective, we are, but as we say, we are going slow. We are going in that way that whatever new is coming, for example, our whole analytics platform is on cloud. My entire now Tata Power is more on the EV electrical vehicle. That platform is completely on cloud. At the same time, my entire operation technology is on way. So the journey is multi-cloud. It is multi-cloud today. I have Azure, I have AWS, and at the same time, I have my own infrastructure also, which is residing. So it's a multi-cloud plus hybrid. And I think we are going towards that.
Okay, thanks a lot. See, we have Mr. Sarvananan from your Karur Vaishya Bank. So I'll take from where Kiran left. Are you there, Mr. Sarvananan?
Yeah, very much.
Yeah. So he talked from a national critical infrastructure point of view, but in a banking sector, with it is a heavily regulated sector with a lot of compliance you have to. In case of cloud per se and multi-cloud, definitely in a much more challenging way. So whether it is data residency, whether it is data privacy, uh, or meeting all other RBI guidelines. So what are the challenges? Banking sector has been usually it is one of the most mature IT users, but the journey to cloud has been a little cautious. So what is your take on that? So how do you look at cloud? And now, and especially after the pandemic, a lot of things have changed for a lot of businesses in the pandemic. So what is your take on that?
Sure. See, as you rightly quoted, the banking industry is a highly regulated industry, and at the same time, it has to reach the masses, a huge crowd. And especially with the consolidation of the banks and RBI providing license to small fin and payments bank, the industry is competing with each other every day and in a very closely manner. And further, to add up, the tie-ups from fintechs and the way of banking has totally changed now, called as neo-banking, and where it is completely digital and people don't come to the branch, but still they could open an account, validate their KYC, do the transaction, get a loan, all sort of things can be done sitting in their own place. And especially the challenges for the banks are basically from the peer banks, new entrants like fintechs, neobanks, payment banks, etc. And on top of it, the high expectation from the customer. That's the most important thing. And finally, the tighter norms from the regulator. And I hail from a bank where we have got a legacy of 106 years. So, but still we need to, even though we look for all sort of new technologies, innovations and all, but the customer service has to remain the same as it started from the day one. That's from 1960. So ultimately we need to focus on, or we need to manage between these two segments. And with the, the requirement of cloud, I really say yes, banks are now open to it. Probably banks would not have thought of the implementation of cloud a few years ago or a couple of years ago, especially for the data localization. That was the biggest challenge because the cloud service providers were available outside India and the data was stored outside. So that has become a most challenging point because the regulator is so keen that the data has to be stored in India only. So for that reason, even the card payments, card industry sponsors, they suffered a lot. So everyone is aware that the MasterCard operations are suspended even now. So because of not complying to the factors, whatever the regulator has said. So stringent measures from the regulator side helps the bank to think twice to take a step into the cloud. But still, yes, banks are into the cloud and even multi-cloud also, even in our case. The time has come and we look for the cloud options. We have, prior to that, we have a well-established data center, near data center, as well as a disaster recovery side, purely maintained by the bank's team. But still, we are open to the cloud. The avenues which we look is whenever a new application comes into the bank, now we look whether it is a cloud native application. And if in such case, we are moving into the cloud directly. And whenever an application comes for an upgrade in the system lifecycle, we used to check with the application OEM whether they are cloud readiness. If it is there, yes, we are taking it in the cloud. And finally, one challenge from the bank side is that many of the banks run their critical applications on the risk computing, and which none of the cloud service providers are offering even today. So for that reason, the critical applications are not moved into the cloud. That's one of the challenge I see. But still, even though if it is available, again, it's a question whether banks will be interested to move such critical workloads into the cloud environment, because those critical applications have multiple integrations with the different sort of applications. Unlike the other industry, we cannot confine to one application or a couple of applications. We need to have to be precise, we have 100+ business applications running in our bank, especially in any of the banks. So all these applications necessarily has to talk to the core engine, that's the core banking solution, as well as to the other applications depending upon the need. Coming back to your second question, the new normal. See, I said that we have got a legacy of 106 years, and there are a set of practices and procedures which is being followed all these days. But everything got turned all of a sudden due to this pandemic or the lockdown. And especially the top management meetings, which was happening in person, especially the board meetings as well as the board committee meetings. And there, the challenge, we wanted to identify a solution immediately in a couple of days. We need to get it validated or vetted by our information security team, then getting trained by to the top management. So that was one of the major challenges we faced.
In fact, that brings us to Mr. Subramanian. He is to give a CISO's perspective of the banking sector. So the right context for him to begin on. So in the cloud environment, especially in the multi-cloud, so what are your, what are the challenges talking from a CISO's perspective for a large Indian bank?
Yeah. See, I'm totally in sync with what Mr. Saravanan just now said. I think most banks are in the same maturity level as well as the same risk acceptance level. See, the regulator has not been, the RBI has not been explicit in giving permission for using cloud for public cloud for core banking, for any kind of banking solution. All periphery systems, they are kind of allowed, and we have moved many of the periphery systems to the cloud, to the public cloud. But the core banking and as all the ecosystems which are there with the additional periphery systems for the banking itself, that is still on premise and on risk and Unix based systems. So there has been some hesitancy towards moving to public cloud on this. Private cloud, VMware and other kinds of virtualization and on demand, all that is available in-house. And there has been a lot of investments on the data center infrastructure as such in nearly all the banks based on the amount of transactions and amount of digital transactions which have gone up. And again, as Mr. Saravanan had put it very succinctly, there has been some pressure from all directions, also from the directions of some fintechs where we take our services from. And those fintechs are sometimes only available on the cloud. So there our customer data and things like that, which were earlier only inside the bank's perimeter, now have to move out to the cloud. And this kind of what you call justification is coming through that since fintech data is available outside, why not we host other banking data also outside? So as far as multi-cloud is concerned, we have just gone into for Oracle Cloud. We are not thinking in terms of multi-cloud just now. And the migration from one cloud to the other would come once we see the benefit of moving the cloud and the migration aspects to do the cost benefit analysis and things like that. Cloud adoption as such, now there has been some acceptance at the board level also for going in for public cloud. in a very secure manner. Again, that caveat comes that how you can take care of security, because the banks as such are holding the customers' data. And now that data privacy norms and security norms and the IT Act, it is very clear that the entire responsibility, wherever, whosoever issue it is, will remain with the bank. And therefore, a bank would rather have its own full-fledged data center, and it has been having until now. In order to move entire compute to the cloud, it may entail kind of rip and replace and kind of some adoption, and there could be some hesitancy in that. But as Mr. Saravanan put, there is a movement towards cloud. And I came into this seminar thinking that what I can learn from others as to how there has been their cloud journeys.
Thank you. I think I want to make a point here. Das, thanks. In the banking sector, what we are seeing as a service provider, very clearly mentioned by Mr. Saravanan and Mr. Subramaniam, that this private cloud activity is happening pretty high. That's for sure. And we have already done, and I've taken a lot of customers already in the private cloud. On the hyperscaler side or the public cloud side, since I am also part of the panel discussions of the RBI, where we have appointed the service provider, hyperscalers, and private cloud players also, where we are discussing day in, day out with RabIT on the framework that we want to create on the cloud. Very clear coming out, and that's why in my last discussion, I pulled out the discussion point of framework. It's very important, because the risk points, the security points, the risk points, which has hit certain private clouds, which we cannot name, we all know, that is the very, I will say, key area where it is getting looked at for public cloud adoption. While we were the partners, and thanks to Manapuram to take them to OCI, but it was a journey. It was a 3-phase learning. That the framework got changed 3 times because looking at security in one. So framework, if we can define on day one very clearly, our policy of consumption, our policy of security on cloud will be very different. And very rightly said about that, cloud consumption is no more about cost. It is about cost control rather. But very clearly, it is about how you're making it automate, and don't think it like a running like on-prem. I think that is a very important point, again, which boils down to framework. So my point of view, or our point of view as a Sify, is that always we should be part of the assessment together to create first the framework and the model, and what is the business outcome, then everything will fall in place that we can carve together.
Okay, thank you. Sonia, quickly, in half a minute, your point, and then I'll go to Mr. Natarajan. And because we are running out of time, we're already 5 minutes late. And one question, please don't go away, to Mr. Yatish also. So Sonia, quickly.
So I think what I am seeing today from VMware in the BFSI sector, absolutely respecting what all points came out from both the gentlemen from the banking, but what we are seeing is core banking doesn't move. Totally agree with you. But there are banks who have really taken their dev and UAT to the cloud. So if there is VMware on-prem, I gave the same VMware experience on the dev UAT into one of the hyperscalers. So they get the all the tools what they need from the hyperscaler, keeping their platforms consistent on both the sides. So I see a lot of dev and UAT thing. I would not name the bank. There are even people discussing the applications like UPI, Jakarta. There are a lot of applications, which they want to move, and they are moving. Right. So it is not that core bank, because why they are moving. The key point here is this is not public cloud. So the infrastructure what VMware provides on the hyperscaler is a dedicated node. So it is not something in the cloud where your data is there and you can't see. So talking about the regulation, compliance and everything, these are dedicated nodes, which gives you, as I said earlier, best of both worlds, giving you the complete control, the complete reach, where it is, it's your data, completely compliant, plus giving you all the native services of a hyperscaler. So that's the very different.
You're absolutely right, Sonia. In fact, one of our avenue for entering into cloud is the UAT environment.
So that I'm seeing very strong development, and people are looking for this VMware cloud because it is consistent with their on-prem. So they're looking for this. So that's the lowest hanging fruit which we can target today.
Okay, so let me quickly go to Mr. Natarajan, because I'll come to Mr. Yatish once. Is that, see, that's a different perspective. Regulation and certain things they have to do, there is no other way. So in your industry, after long, last 6-7 years, a lot of these so-called digital transformation, Industry 4.0, all these things are happening. So how is that changing your, look at the way you thought that probably things will move on like this, and now suddenly there is a lot of pressure, a lot of expectation from IT and to connect everything. So what is, how is it changing? Edge is being talked about a lot. So then, again, you have to balance it through the, so what is your outlook for cloud in the context of that?
Question is to me, Mr. Das?
Yeah.
No, quickly, let me not take too much of time. On the digital transformation today, the automotive industry today is in the cusp of a major disruption, right? And riding on those, we all know, case, connected, autonomous, shared, electric, a whole lot of, moving away from diesel and petrol from fossil fuels to alternate fuels. That's a huge kind of a transformation which is happening, and the industry is kind of grappling with this. And the underlying, there's several kind of trends, and there are several technologies which are driving these trends. And cloud is one of the major enablers in this whole transformation, which I said as part of the first question. So so you need to look at a multi-cloud kind of an environment. And the myth is it difficult to migrate from one cloud to another? Not necessarily so. So if you talk to an Indian politician, especially Indian politician, and then ask him, what is your view on politics? He will say, in politics, there are no permanent friends. There is no permanent enemy. So similarly, in a cloud environment, there's nothing like a permanent cloud service provider. I will stick to one fellow. Today, I am one cloud service provider. Tomorrow, I will go to another fellow. And that's the way the world will evolve. And our experience has been so. We migrated heavy workloads, big data platforms from one cloud service provider, which was GCP. So in 2018, I delivered the keynote in the Google Cloud Summit in Bangalore. In the next 12 months, we migrated the entire workload to AWS, and we had our own set of reasons for that. And all these hyperscalers are fantastic guys. They have their own strengths, right? So, but every organization could have its own kind of reasons for them to move from one cloud to another. So we decided, and in 2019 May, there was a AWS Cloud Summit in Mumbai, attended by about 8,000 people. I delivered the keynote and I said AWS is good. The previous year I said GCP is good. So it keeps changing. So what is required? So how is this migration seamless? I think it's very important that you have a very strong partner with you, right? A partner who understands your workloads very well, who understands the contours of your workload very well. He understands from what you're moving to what you're moving. Probably in Google, you're talking of BigQuery. In AWS, it's going to be Redshift for you, right? So how do you kind of take this data, put it here, make these things work and all that? But for us, personal experience from this migration of almost about 50 terabytes of data, which we migrated, was fairly a kind of a seamless experience. So moving forward, I think, this whole thing, there will be a constant churn amongst the various service providers. People will be moving from one cloud to another, as I said, for various kind of reasons. And that's the way forward. And, vendors and partners have to be alive to this emerging kind of the reality.
Okay, thanks a lot. See, we are running out of one question to Mr. Yatish is that we heard it from 2-3 Indian, banks about now that you were. I don't see him here. Is he there?
Yeah, I'm here. Able to hear me?
Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So you have been slightly, ahead of the curve. So what are some of the big lessons, big realization which can be of use? Of course, every market is different. Every market is regulated differently, but still some of the things that you would like to say.
Is a question in terms of what is more imperative for us when we go on cloud? Is that what it is?
No, in terms of, because we just heard the concerns and the challenges of, moving to the cloud and, managing that from Indian banks perspective, maybe
the global perspective.
From,
yes. Yeah, I can give you a global perspective, at least the Europe perspective, because that's what we are working on. Going to cloud is okay. Two aspects which become really critical is data security and cyber security. I mean, the cloud security aspect that we need to look at when we roll out to a cloud solution. So these two aspects play a very, very vital role in all our operations, because we are in a highly regulated market, because it's not easy. And given the fact that we are not only in Eurozone, but also in the Asia and the MR zone, we are strictly regulated by each of the regulations, and they come with their own list of things that we have to take care mandatorily when we are moving to cloud.
Okay, thank you. That is really short. Anitos, any one last half minute you have to comment before I summarize?
So I think it was indeed a good session. Thanks, and I welcome everyone for this discussion. It was really a good learning, and what Sonia also said, I would just keep it simple in that note. When everybody understand there is a flexibility and innovation that we can bring in cloud or a hybrid way of working, and hybrid is the right word. I would suggest the way VMware and Sify is creating the solution stack. We don't come as a product point of view. We come as a services point of view. We generally come and discuss and assess the understanding what you're trying to meet for the business as an IT operations or from the IT customer experience point of view, or sometimes from the security point of view, what is required. And that is the end-to-end solution we try to approve. So there is nothing so any cloud provider should not come as a product in mind. It is not a product world. It's a solution world. And how the solution can take us to the next level as a business is what we can do as a value add. That's it from my end. Thank you.
Thanks. We are already quite almost 12, 13 minutes delayed. So let me quickly summarize that.
Can I take 30 seconds of time?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you.
That is good, yeah.
Yeah. No, in fact, even though I said the challenges on moving the application cloud, but still we have our cloud, lending solution in cloud, which is the bread and butter of the bank, right? So we formed the digital transformation sector a couple of years ago, of which we took a different initiative. Rather than moving into the liability products, we wanted to go into the asset product. So we took up the end-to-end digital solution, that is a lending solution, right from onboarding a customer till the disbursement, everything happens over digital. Even the signature is of digital. So we don't get any wet signatures at all. So everything is evaluated online, and a complete Pakka lending solution is now in place and which is running for quite 2 years without any hurdles. So we are open to cloud. So that is the point which I wanted to make. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think he has also, you said it very well. So it is a journey, as all of us keep repeating. And at different stages of journey, we have different challenges. We have to take it add on. And some of those challenges we discussed. We talked about security, we talked about flexibility, about cost control rather than cost optimization, as you know, was emphasized by both Anitos and I think Yatish, and a few other things I wanted to cover, but since the discussion was going in some direction and there are interesting points, I didn't get into. You can discuss it for 3 hours and still cannot have enough. So, but anyway, this was a good discussion and we learned a lot. And I thank you all of you for turning. And it is almost 1 hour 15 minutes. Thanks once again, and thanks Sonia, Jitender, and Anitos as well, and thank my colleagues and at Sify-VMware and my own organization.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you. Good day. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
And 9.9 is still close to my heart because very recently I received the Future CIO Award, which is by 9.9. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Bye-bye. Take care.